waited all winter for this.
It's the biggest race we have all year long.
The icons of this sport have all starred on its biggest stage.
It's the great American race. Trust me.
I won the Daytona 500. I won the Daytona 500.
Pull them belts tight one last time, boys. Light the fire.
Big push coming now for Harvick. Oh, and around goes a couple cars. Priest upside down. He's barrel rolling through the grass.
You got plenty of money. Don't need that to keep racing. Is it worth the risk to keep on going?
Sure, to win.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys have yourselves a Chase Elliott type of weekend. Finally getting that monkey off his back and that first win in well over a season down in Texas. The first mile-and-a-half win for him in the next-gen era, too, which I thought was pretty interesting. We were going to a lot of mile-and-a-halves the last 2 years. Chase, where you been? Well, you've been waiting for Texas. Apparently, they don't give away the six-shooters anymore for the winner, which I was kind of disappointed by. But make sure you like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends about the podcast. Thanks, old bummer.
Thanks, Obama.
Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Podcast available every Monday night. Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And on YouTube as well. You can see our pretty faces. But fellas, how's your weekend? Daytona Ron. I don't know. You were kind of quiet. Matt, you were watching the Masters, I feel like. What were you guys up to all weekend long?
Big sports weekend this weekend. Had the Masters, had a really good 4 rounds of golf, this weekend. Also had the biggest UFC card event of the century, being UFC 300. It was just awesome fight after awesome fight after awesome fight. Our buddy Andre had a party up his house, so I got to see a couple familiar faces in Shrey, the Shreys, both of them I got to see, which, they're, if you've listened to this podcast long enough, you've heard us talk about them, just fellow NASCAR fans. And so it was really, really good to see them. We got to talking about Pocono a little bit while I was up there. So just getting the juices flowing, man. We're like, 3 months away? I don't even know if we're that far away. So it's going to be here before we know it.
Actually, exactly 3 months yesterday.
So
July 14th. So
yeah. So and it's going to be here before we know it too. So just getting to talk about it, and seeing everyone. So it was nice. But just a nice sports weekend. Speaking
of Pocono, that was one of the before the show we were talking about Blackstones off air. That's another reason why I got the Blackstone this weekend. That way I could, Eric, you're talking about the wind. I have a little tiny Coleman camp stove that I can't get anything to heat on because that wind is terrible. So looking forward to the Blackstone at Pocono this year. And speaking of Pocono, made a new friend in the bathroom at a brewery this past weekend in Wilkes-Barre. I saw him with an RFK hat. I go, Keselowski or Buescher. That's how you get. So he was talking to me a little bit. We were tweeting back and forth, and he invited us all for some hams at Pocono, the beer hams with the double M's. So
double M, baby.
So shout out to you. Hopefully we do meet up in 3 months at Pocono. We'll share some beers and maybe I'll give you some brats off the Blackstone. But Eric, how about you? How's your weekend?
It was one of those weekends where, as you and Matt were talking, I was trying to recall what I did this weekend. You know what I mean? And there was just up there was just like a little monkey riding a little tricycle up there the whole time. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Right,
with the thimbles on his head, just going.
I have no idea what I did. Matt, I did watch the UFC fights. I did watch the UFC fights, which they were absolutely insane. Yeah. So that did happen. Friday night,
trucking.
Friday
baby.
night trucking. Friday night trucking. That's see, it's all coming back to me now, boys. But it was one of those weekends. You know what I mean? Where I'm struggling to recall a little bit. But on Sunday, it was the first race out in the garage weekend for me. So I had the garage the last couple of weekends. I've been putzing around out there trying to get it ready. And did the first mock run, and thank gosh I did, because I had a little phone to TV connection issue trying to do it. And when you have 20 rowdy NASCAR fans behind you in your garage, and the race is already about to start, and you can't get it hooked up to your TV, the amount of pressure you feel in that situation.
Sweat beaming down. Yeah. The back is getting soiled up.
Yeah. It's like I'm about to throw the first pitch out at Wrigley Field. You know what I mean?
And we're only 6 weeks away from the big show with the Coke 600 in the garage too. So you got to work out all the kinks before that. You know? Right.
I got a new layout this year. I got a couch out there, so it's we're going up and up in the garage this year. But that was pretty much my weekend. Sunday enjoyed it was a weird day on Sunday weather-wise, but it turned out to be beautiful at the end of the day. Yeah. So it was nice to be outside, watch the race in the garage, and enjoy the fresh air while doing so. So I'm happy to see the weather finally turned here in northeastern Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah, sunny 70 the last 2 days. I had work off today, so I was enjoying the sunshine all day long. Unfortunately, now my legs are all sweaty because I can't open this window. The wind blows the curtains and all that. It gets all crazy, and it's a little too hot in this room. We're getting warm in Pennsylvania, especially for April, but I'm excited, which means summertime just around the corner. Pocono Raceway. Going to Dover in 2 weeks. It's getting exciting. But fellas, do you want to jump into the NASCAR news? Not a whole lot of stories to talk about, but important stories to talk about. NASCAR announced they hired longtime ESPN executive John Dale as the new senior VP of content. Of course, we know next year, we thought it was going to be next year. NASCAR is taking on the production role for the Xfinity series and running the races on the CW. So a couple days ago, we saw that headline. We started thinking like, oh, they're getting their cards in place, right? And then what was it? Thursday, Friday, one of those days, we had a bombshell that the CW is going to be broadcasting the final 8 Xfinity series races of 2024, and they're taking them off NBC and USA. So not exactly sure what's going on with that, but apparently the NBC crew will still call the races on the CW. What do you guys think about the early moves? I know we were doing a lot of speculating during it all.
Yeah, I don't want to do any speculating on here just because I don't want to be that podcast that's like, well, I heard it from them and it's not even remotely close to being true. So we'll keep our speculations to our group chats, but it's interesting, obviously something is going on, right? Because something like that just doesn't happen overnight, so the reason why it takes so long to get the schedules out anymore, years ago, Eric can attest to this, years ago, the schedule would come out right around the Coke 600, like for the following year, we would know way in advance. Now it comes out sometime during the playoffs, and it's what takes so long? Well, it's because the TV deals and the tracks and everyone has to figure out all the maneuvering and scheduling. And the TV broadcast partners have a lot to do with that. And so this was all hammered out last year when they announced the scheduling deal. So it's confusing as to why, what happened. Again, we're not going to speculate, but something happened, right? To have them hurry up the production to move it to the CW for this year instead of next year for the Xfinity series. So I'm sure it'll all come out eventually, but it was definitely a shocker to hear that last week.
Yeah. Do you think that they saw any numbers from it being on USA and NBC and they saw a drastic decline and they decided to pull the plug way earlier and say, hey, we'll keep your guys' crew, but we're going to go to the free airwave of the CW instead of, through NBC and USA. They might have seen something where the numbers might have been down, because USA, that's part of NBC and the Peacock network, isn't it? You need the app or you need some kind of cable subscription to get that.
Yeah, you need for USA, you need cable.
Yeah, but and CW, like you were saying, Wade, that's free over there for everybody to use. And I think this is smart. I think they might have lost a lot of older, maybe rural fans than they were expecting with the last deal with that USA thing. And they're realizing, maybe we at least have to run this on the CW with quote unquote to everybody free over the air. So that's as far as I'm going to go with speculating. I think maybe they saw some numbers and how it wasn't working and they're trying to get ahead of it before it's too late type of thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all I have on it.
So you want to know what I'm going to do? Not speculating, but just wondering out loud. It's something that just popped into my head, where the Xfinity series was on NBCSN, right? Or no, right? Was that NBC Sports Network? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that went away like 2 years ago. They flipped
when
programming.
Peacock came out. They kind of got rid of NBCSN and they kind of merged everything into that Peacock format.
But then they had the Xfinity Series races. They had Cup Series races. The NBC had to do something with them. They put them on USA. They put other sports on USA as well. But USA Network, I mean, what's USA Network really known for? WWE Raw, right? Law and Order SVU reruns. And like weird movies and like some dramas that they put on, and Chrisley Knows Best. That's from like 5 years ago, but you know what I mean? Like sports wasn't USA's deal, right? And now, just thinking out loud, my gears are turning, my speculation's going. The new TV deal for next year, well, what did we see? We saw a chunk of races from NBC go to streaming with Amazon and TNT, right? But they're keeping the playoff races. And typically, NBC puts the playoff races on NBC, the network proper. They're not putting them on USA. I don't think any of the playoff races, except for maybe the first one, are on USA. So maybe that's why they were open to like, hey, let's shorten this. Let's move the Xfinity Series. We'll sell off the rights to the Xfinity Series. That gives us just what we want. We want primetime NBC races to lead into what? Sunday Night Football. That's all they really want NASCAR for, is that lead into Sunday Night Football. Grab some of those fans, bring them over to the big shit Sunday night, So
like you're saying, though, bring the fans over. I really do believe that with this whole USA deal to begin with, and why I think like, okay, it's not working out. Where I think it's not working out, and where I was kind of in my head when they were doing this, because once again, what else is on that network, I was thinking. And I think they were trying to poach some WWE fans.
I think so too. Yeah.
To NASCAR, because you look at both those things where
the demographics
of late, similar kind of audience, similar kind of like you could, we talk about it. It's entertainment. It's now more along those lines. Like you look at the WWE, you get those fans and you get a couple of those, wild, crazy NASCAR T-shirts and the graphic design and this and then that and the fight. I'm telling you, I think they tried to sell instead of to the football fans like they're doing all the time. I think they tried to get a different crowd by doing this TV deal in USA and hopes maybe they could hook some of those fans. And maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And that is why they're pulling out now. But, I think it's all just trying to get a new fan base. That's what the sport has been over the last 3 years. They've been trying to do that, interject young, newer fans. So, they're going out to LA. They're going out doing this. They're trying to, I think it's all been the last 3 years trying to get a new fan base with everything. So you could speculate the little things, but I'm looking big picture. I think this is all just them trying to get new fans, and they're going anywhere, any route or any, other sport to try and poach.
See, I was thinking like that. Always true. Like, let's get cross audiences and stuff. That's the goal.
They're always trying that, no matter what it is.
That's the goal of television scheduling. Yeah. You have tent poles and I forget. There's tent poles and then there's hammocks, right? So in television, say just as an example, back in the day, The Simpsons were on at 8. Right? 9 o'clock, you had King of the Hill. And in between, you had the show that you were trying to test out. You had your two poles of the hammock, and the middle part is where you're trying to retain the audience for each, right? Malcolm in the Middle. Right. Exactly. Right. And then that builds its following. You get to move that to somewhere else. Then that becomes a tent pole where you have a new show, Malcolm in the Middle, and then whatever. And people are showing up for Malcolm in the Middle. You hope they show up early for the new show and stay for the other show. Same deal. Now, I think the NBC Sports deal, I don't know what exactly happened with that, but I think they scrambled. They're like, oh, we got to move to USA, kind of scramble around. Now they don't know what to do with NASCAR. It's just kind of there on USA, Now this gives them an out a little bit earlier than next year. Hey, push the Xfinity Series. That opens up USA to program what they want to program and not have to worry about the contracts of the Xfinity Series. Now, here's the other piece, though, and this is something we were talking about on Saturday in our group chat. It was something I was thinking of where, there's college football fans that might not necessarily watch the NFL, right? I'm sure there's fans out there that are only Xfinity Series fans. They like watching the younger guys. The racing. We say it all the time. The racing is better on Saturdays than Sundays with this car. It's just plain simple. Usually the Saturday race is the best race of the weekend. It happened at Texas again. I think Saturday's Xfinity race was phenomenal, especially with that close finish. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I'm hopeful that this CW move creates a new fan base just for the Xfinity series, where it's like, hey, I could pick it up. It's free over the air. It's like Rail Riders fans here, like the minor league fans, What do you guys think about that whole piece of it, just in general?
I agree. I mean, when they announced that Xfinity was going exclusively on their own over to CW, whatever it was, sometime last year, like, we were all excited for it, and I am now. Like, give them their own identity. Like you said, they are typically usually the best racing of the weekend. So if it's a channel that people don't have to subscribe to, people don't have to pay for, it's just there. If you're flipping through the channels, or it's low enough in the guide where if you're going through the guide, hey, I wonder what's going on with this thing. I'll check it out because it's one of the first things on my, you throw it on and then you pull the guide back up as you go to see what else is on. Yeah. But maybe it's in the background and something stays with you where you stick with the race. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see. Listen, like, we do a NASCAR podcast, so we're gonna tune in wherever it's going to be. So I just hope for the new fans, that's always the target, new fans. I hope it works, and I hope it pulls in the newer fans.
I hope so too. And I think it has the possibility. Something else that I think has the possibility to bring in some new fans, or at least bring back some fans, some purists. And speaking of Xfinity Series, Dale Jr. says he would like to run more short track drivers in the Xfinity Series. Recently, we saw Bubba Pollard make his debut in the Xfinity Series. We've seen Carson Kvapil running for the Xfinity Series. Of course, he runs for Junior Motorsports in late model stock division anyways, but giving some of these younger guys, I wish, and this is the reason why I bring it up, I wish we could have the truck series go back to the way it was, where there were standalone events at smaller short tracks. Imagine real short track Friday nights in the trucks. I'm trucking, baby.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I could see. I mean, we've talked about this in the past, where I think we all agree that I think the trucks and Xfinity should be their own identity and their own series in a way, and not just be the tag along with the Cup series wherever they go. I would even go as far as saying the trucks don't have to be standalone. You can have the ARCA series follow the trucks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the ARCA runs a lot of those smaller tracks too and goes around the country there. So you pair them up together, and you have Xfinity is big enough on its own that I think they could sustain a series by themselves going to other places. And then you have the Cup. It's the Cup series.
Yeah, it's the big show.
The only thing that'll do is
it's costs for the money in the networks.
And you're taking away races from the fans that are buying tickets for Cup now. So now they have to redo all of that of like, how do we charge for when it's just one race versus they're getting 3 races and this and like. So I think that all would change. I think that's a lot to change.
That is, yeah.
But man, I think it would be cool. I really do. Like, I think, with the spotlight on all these old tracks, the Dale Jr.'s TV show of Racetrack Rejuvenation or whatever that was back in the day. Like,
Lost Speedways,
yeah. Take the trucks and take ARCA, to these smaller racetracks and shine some light on them again. You know what I mean? Bring them back and use the trucks to do that. Don't use the Cup to do all these experiments, like with this North Wilkesboro thing with all kind of use that as a tester series and see what works and see what doesn't with that instead of ruffling the feathers of your main category of your sport.
I mean, we've seen it work for a track. Gateway was a truck series race only for the longest time, but people kept showing up, and now we bring the Cup series there the last 2 years. We're bringing it there again, So there is this possibility to not only, get into new markets, but discover untapped markets, One thing, shit, I lost my train of thought, but, just one thing, like I've noticed over the last year or two is, and it started really with dirt racing, there's kind of this revival of grassroots racing, you know? And you could tell NASCAR is trying to tap into it with the modified series and highlighting grassroots racing and everything. But like, I feel like the grassroots to Cup pipeline got messed up over the last 15, 20 years. And now like guys like Dale Jr., who are trying to bring more short track guys into it, are trying to bring it back the way it used to be, where like, yeah, like this guy, oh, he won an ARCA East championship. Now he's getting his truck series chance, you know, shit like that. Where
this is my problem though, that I think, and we're getting into the weeds here, but whatever, we're in the weeds. It's
not
Monday,
much to talk about, to be honest with you. I mean, well, you'll see why, because we didn't really want to talk about Texas. So
I lost my train of thought now. Son of a bitch.
I'm sorry. That was my fault. I should have just let you go.
What were we talking about?
Just a short track revival, the pipeline with grassroots getting to Cup.
Right. I think NASCAR is in a really bad place right now with that whole thing, because it's no longer a pipeline to Cup series anymore, I don't think, because it doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah.
Because the Cup car has nothing to do with the Xfinity car, the truck, the ARCA, the modifieds, none of it. It drives completely different from any of that shit. Back in the day, if you drove ARCA, you went in truck, you went in Xfinity, everything was
it made sense.
More similar.
Honing
it was different, don't get me wrong.
Way, you know?
But the basic principle of it, like I'll say this for like what Jimmy Johnson brought up. Everyone wants to bust Jimmy Johnson about him being, you know, he wrecks every time he gets in a car and this and that. But it's like, Jimmy explained it so well. He's like, this car, you can't drive it off of the right rear. The whole old next-gen car, Chase Elliott, he drove it off of the right rear. He liked the loose race car. You knew what you're getting. This car, you have no idea. You can't drive it that way. So you have to readjust. You have to drive it differently. And they don't know how to do that. And it's tough to like say that a 7-time champion, Chase Elliott champion, can't figure out the car.
It's hard to adjust.
It's the truth. And a lot of these other guys, they're just not saying it, but there's a reason why these drivers and teams are struggling. And it's not just the equipment or this new car. It's the driver's adaptation to the car. So what is driving in the truck series and Xfinity series really going to benefit a pipeline to a Cup car anymore? I don't know that it's really going to do them all that good, to be honest with you. You know what I mean?
I agree. Yeah.
I think NASCAR at a certain point, if you're going to stick with this next-gen car and it's going to race the way that this next-gen car races, you're going to have to take this next-gen car and bring it to the Xfinity series as well. You have to start training these drivers with this new car as soon as possible to get them ready, because to me, the pipeline is just, it doesn't make sense at all anymore.
You know who really did it right? Like true blue, like it's not the traditional way anymore, but Carson Hocevar and Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs jumped completely over trucks, didn't need it, went to Xfinity, and then jumped as soon as he could to a Cup ride, where like some people are like, oh, he needs to stay in Xfinity and learn.
You ain't gonna learn shit down there in that car. It has nothing to do with Cup.
And it's just gonna put you behind. Now look at Ty Gibbs this year. He's been running phenomenal every week. You know, he had struggles this week, but that's it. Carson Hocevar, same deal. Ran a season in trucks, jumped straight up to Cup. And he got a top 10 this week, you know?
Right. Like I used to get mad all the time because you would see the guys, fucking Penske, that 22 in Xfinity, Brad or Joey would be down in that, and they would dominate to get that extra seat time. And then on Sunday, they'd always perform so well because of that seat time. And I used to get so mad because it worked. Yeah. It helped from transition from Saturday to Sunday. It worked. You got that extra seat time. You learned something. Now, if you go from Xfinity and then you jump in Cup,
you're shifting up because one's sequential and one's H pattern. Yeah, you got
right. Like it just, to me, it's once again, I hope they do something, but it seems to me that NASCAR, they see everything in front of them, and now they're rushing to get to that bag instead of taking a couple steps back and just not rushing into anything. And I just think, this whole thing's going to come crashing to the ground in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's just the way that they're handling all this stuff. And this new car. I just think it's going to be a lot of pointing fingers, and And I don't know. I hate to be that way, negative.
Yeah.
But man, I feel like they're going to fumble this momentum. And I've been saying this, that they need to do something quick and now so that doesn't happen. And I'm just seeing them still tripping over their same feet.
No, I agree. We're watching with the short track package the last 3 years,
Yeah.
And like, again,
they didn't really do anything. They said they did. They didn't really do it. They didn't try anything. Like all the drivers and everyone saying, get a test. Larry Mack is like, back in the day, if we had problems here, we would get 12 guys. We get a bunch of engineers. We'd sit in a room. We drink beers. What do you got to say? Write it down. You want to try that? Okay, fab this up. We'll try that. You want to do this? Go on. And we put 12 cars out there. We'd run them on the racetrack. How did that go? Back to the drawing board. I liked a little bit of this. They actually tested. They actually tried to get shit done. Today, it's like, money this, money that.
Simulator told us this.
They're greedy sons of bitches that just want money for themselves. I'm tired of it.
You know what's the worst part too? And you hear drivers complaining about it all the time during the tire tests. They go to green racetracks. So yeah, of course it rubbers in and everything. Like the track isn't true race conditions. You have to stay long after the weekend, while the track's still rubbered in, then you do the tire test. You can't come back to Phoenix 6 months after you just been there, run a tire test, burn up a couple sets and go, yeah, this looks good. It's like, yeah, it looks good because you had a green racetrack and it burned them up quicker than normal. What is it going to do when it actually starts taking rubber? Or is it even going to take rubber? You never even know. So I don't know. Again, don't want to be too negative. 2 weeks in a row or whatever.
No, we've been positive too long. Fuck that. This is the negative show today. Texas sucked ass.
Yeah. Well, we're sports fans, Eric, not sports critics. If you follow Daytona Ron on Twitter, I did love that post though. You're 100% right. But we're doing a podcast where we're supposed to criticize shit, So I guess that's where we are. What's up, Matt?
So we are in the news segment, right? And you just sent something that triggered me. I just wanted to kind of come clean and talk about something that's kind of been weighing on me.
It's
you
the
just
moment.
said something there. We are sports fans. Okay. So what I'm about to reveal is not anything new to you two. You guys know what I'm gonna get into here. But since the Texas race, I have no idea what to talk about it. We have a little bit of time to go off into the weeds here. So I'm going to have at it, and I'm going to make an announcement here for myself. So
this is, can I stop you real quick? This is something that me and Eric have known for years. Yeah. And you're finally just admitting it to yourself, and I'm very proud of you. So
thank you.
Come clean here.
It hasn't been easy for me to do this, but I'm finally ready to do so. So over my shoulder here, you have Dale Earnhardt Jr., right? I was married to Dale Earnhardt Jr. as a NASCAR fan my entire life. Okay. Yeah. When his career ended and that divorce went through, those divorce papers filed, I had no idea what to do with myself.
You're back on the scene. You're lost. You're like, man, what do I do?
I'm back. I'm single, baby. I'm on the market. And what comes strolling through that bar room door? A hot, sexy young thing named Chase Elliott. And I see Chase, and I'm like, I got to take Chase home. That's who I want to be with right there.
He's got a name, he's not the hot girl from your graduating class like Dale Jr. was, but it's like, it's the same name. It's the younger sister. Like, I got to get that.
So you start seeing the hot, sexy young thing, Chase Elliott, and it's a great fandom, and you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself. But over time, without even realizing it, you start picking up the pieces of, well, we don't really have much in common. We don't really the casual, the fun that we used to have really isn't there anymore. There's no more fire in the heart. And then you go to the bar one night with your sexy young date, Chase Elliott, and you're sitting there, and who walks through the door but someone that's been in your life your entire time, and you just tried to ignore them. You just tried to ignore the fact that you felt something for that person because you were just lying to yourself, right? Well, I'm here to admit that I'm done lying to myself. I left a little Easter egg here right above my shoulder here last week. Let me go ahead and pull this down. This right here is a Martin Truex diecast. This right here May as well be a love letter to myself. This right here is the person that I've been in love with this whole time, not Chase Elliott. I am so happy that Chase won that race yesterday because I needed something to happen to prove what I already knew was real, that I didn't feel a goddamn thing about this relationship anymore because my heart's been in a different place this entire time. So you say to yourself, well, Matt, you're still wearing the Chase Elliott hat. You're still wearing the hoodie. What's that all about? I'm done lying to myself, boys. Done lying.
Wow.
I've got the 19 on. I'm in open happy. I'm sick of seeing Marty when the neighbors are sleeping. I'm sick of letting Marty in through the side door while the neighbors are sleeping so no one sees it. I'm in an open relationship with Martin Truex Jr. I can't do this anymore. I can't lie to myself. Good luck to Chase. I wish him all the luck in the world. Now, I wish some of his fans good luck, but that was also another thing that I just couldn't do it anymore.
Now, Matt, here's the thing though. It's big for a sports fan to switch. I need you to do something for me. I need you to turn around. And I need you to stand up in front of that camera, and I want to take a good look at the back of that T-shirt, and you'll see why. Now stand. Now get a little closer, just a little bit closer. See that wheel? That's a 5-lug nut wheel. That's an old T-shirt. That is a Gen 6 car. So you've had that T-shirt a long, long time. You've been keeping Martin Truex Jr. hidden away from us all for a long, long time.
I'm gonna say this. This to me isn't even a switch.
No.
It always has been.
It's just being true to yourself.
I knew. It's like, you know, like, you know, when your buddy, like, you just know, and it's like, okay, you just keep going along with it. You keep going along with it. He's doing some shady stuff. Like, whenever his neighbors aren't around, he just seems like he's doing something real weird. Yeah. And like, you kind of have an idea, but you're not saying anything because you're like the friend. You don't want to intermingle into the business.
It's like when your buddy's gay and he keeps showing up to the parties with like mesh shirts on, and he's showing up with like his fingernails.
I'm not gay. What are you talking about?
You're lying to yourselves, and then all of a sudden, when your gay friend comes out, it's like, well, yeah, dude, the mesh shirts kind of sold you down the river years ago, buddy. Yeah, well, I'm here, I'm open, I'm free. I am a Martin Truex Jr. fan, and I've got a succession plan because we were just talking about, and this is no secret because I've been very open about this, but obviously Marty is on the back nine of his career, right? So
that was one of the original reasons why you didn't go with him in the first place. Right?
Correct. I was lying to myself because I just got over the heartbreak of Junior retiring. I didn't want to do that so close again in my life because obviously Marty's going to retire maybe at the end of this year, maybe at the end of next year, but soon, right?
Yeah.
So after that is over, and again, I've made my intentions very clear that Josh Berry will be my driver in waiting. We were just talking about how Dale Jr. Has brought short track guys in. You didn't mention Josh Berry, probably the biggest success story that he's had so far. So I just love everything about Josh Berry. So when Marty is hangs them up and he walks himself into the Hall of Fame, I will be a Josh Berry fan. But I just wanted to make that announcement. Chase Elliott fans, come after me. I already have one buddy who's a diehard Chase Elliott fan who I broke this news to a couple weeks ago. Not happy with me. Listen, I get it, but I was lying to myself. Yeah. Just happy for me, okay?
Man, you were a fan of Truex when you were still a fan of Dale Jr.
Yeah.
So I knew, I've known that, you know what I mean? And like, that's why, like, when you went to Chase, it was almost like, I was like, man, I for certain thought he was going to Martin Truex. Like,
for certain thought he was gay.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Would have Pocono the last 5 years.
That's the thing. I remember the first race I went to at Pocono. I met up with Matt in the we met up in the grandstands. We were hanging out watching. I didn't even know you were a Chase fan because you were looking where Marty was the whole entire time. You were counting positions to see where he was. So I was shocked when I found out you were a Chase Elliott fan.
Well, I wasn't, apparently. That race solidified it yesterday when he crossed that finish line, and I felt absolutely nothing, like nothing. I knew that, okay, it's over. It's that really. It was great while it lasted. We had our fun, but I'm on to a big boy relationship now.
Understandable. You're committed, and I'm happy for you. I'm glad that you're being true to yourself. But fellas, we got a race weekend to still talk about. Speaking of, speaking of Chase Elliott, he led 3 times for 39 laps. So we saw some trucking, we saw some Xfinity racing. Kyle Busch won in the truck series. Sam Mayer won by inches in the Xfinity series. I thought it was pretty interesting too. Dale Jr. gave praise to Ryan Sieg, where he kind of said, he's like, man, I kind of feel bad for him. I kind of wish he won. And that's his own car that won because of the success story. Ryan Sieg putting all that money into them. And so big congratulations, though, to Sam Mayer getting the win. And then, of course, Chase Elliott leading 3 times for 39 laps. The race lasted 3 hours, 33 minutes, and 14 seconds. I believe that was the longest race of the season so far, except maybe the Daytona 500. We saw 16 cautions for 72 laps. It's over 25% of the race, and 23 lead changes among 13 different drivers. Fellas, let's jump into the race grades. But can I go first this week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Please, because I don't have anything to say.
Right.
I have a grade, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as we were watching the race, if you go online, it seems like a lot of people really love this race. I didn't personally. I'm going to give it about a C-. I didn't want to give it quite a D either because, again, I'm being optimistic. And after last week, we went on this whole not a tirade, but we were talking about, curbing expectations for this car and certain tracks. Texas is one of those tracks that we've all kind of dumped on for a long time, especially after that reconfigure. And so we might get a little flack about that, but I really did enjoy this race. And I was curbing my expectations because I'm like, oh, I know it's Texas. I know it could get long and strung out. And I was optimistic for this race to begin with. The first stage, a little boring because it did get long and drug out. Kyle Larson was leading, but then it started getting interesting. He starts hitting lap traffic. He starts lapping cars. And you think oh, something will happen. And then Jimmy Johnson spun. And we didn't realize that was the beginning of just total chaos for the rest of this race. And some might have found the chaos entertaining. And to a certain point, usually we do find a little bit of chaos to be entertaining because, some chaos can happen, flips the whole entire race around. Now you're in a different type of race, oh, holy shit, right? And that's kind of what brought us back in during the first stage and the second stage were these spins. But then the chaos got so frequent where it wasn't adding to the entertainment value of the racing itself, where I feel like it just kind of took away from it, where couldn't build that rhythm to actually enjoy the race. Wasn't sure who was actually good because so many guys are trying different strategies because of the chaos going on around them, besides Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, and Denny Hamlin, I had no idea who actually had a good, fast car because someone would spin. These guys decide to take tires. Someone else decides not to take tires. Everything gets flipped around. You get stuck back in traffic. And then just more chaos would happen where it'd shuffle it around where I'm like, I can't even really focus and pay attention to what's going on. 26% of the race was run under caution. And yeah, chaos could be interesting and entertaining. I just think at a certain point, it becomes not entertaining, just frustrating and annoying. And that's where I was at the end of the race. I took a screenshot just to see all of the yellow in the cautions. And even Kevin Harvick mentioned it on the broadcast where he's like, it's hard to decipher, cautions and green flag runs and everything. Where I didn't think it was a good race because of all the chaos. Now, other people could be like, well, yeah, it made it hard to drive. The track, that bump and everything, people are losing it. Where I'm like, yeah, I guess. But 13? 14?
Can I say something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's just to piggyback. I didn't mean to cut you off because I just want to have it I want it to be a conversation
now, yeah.
Because I think Eric's probably in the similar boat. I'll just give my grade real quick. I was at a C, and the reason why I wanted to jump in and we can continue whatever your thought was is I'm in 100% agreement with everything you just said. I think as racing fans, we like the idea of chaos. Chaos could be right around the corner, but once chaos arrives on your doorstep and it keeps arriving and it interrupts the flow of a race, that's when chaos is no longer fun. Like, perfect example, we've got Talladega coming up next week. The idea of chaos at any given moment is going to be hovering over that race.
To keep you on the edge of your seat.
It continues to big one after big one after big one. We're all going to be like, can we just get a couple laps in here?
Yeah, perfectly.
It's the idea of the chaos looming, not the actual chaos itself is what is entertaining. And so that's what we just had yesterday. We had the opposite of that. We actually had all the chaos over and over and over again, and we couldn't get into a flow of a storyline of a race, because a race is just like watching a TV series where you have this arc and you have this storyline going, and then eventually you hit the peak.
Yep.
And then you come back down to earth, and then you finish the series or you finish the race, and that's how that's the entertainment value. That's how entertainment works. And we just couldn't, it was just too choppy. It was up and down, up and down, up and down, instead of a linear, like, this is a really entertaining thing, because we just had stop and go all the time. And
we're coming off the heels a couple of weeks ago of a chaotic race, but the chaos added to the racing, where Bristol with the tires, where it's like, oh man, who's going to fall off next? Like, who's going to cord their tires? Who could possibly wreck because of it? It added to it, because like that was the element. I felt like this type of chaos, it just came out of nowhere so quick, where it's like, oh, here's another one. Here's another one. Oh, here's another one, you know? And a couple of them were the same guy over and over again. John Hunter Nemechek, what are you doing out there, brother? You know, like, Are you feeling that way too? Like, I feel like that's where I'm at in this one, where like we had good chaos, where it was chaotic, bad chaos.
Yep. And I just couldn't get into a flow. And then, like, you know, because of all the stops, all the yellows, it's like, well, let's go see what's going on with the Masters. Oh, it's nice out. Let's, you know, my wife and son were outside playing. Oh, I'll pop out the backyard, see what they're up to. You come back in. Oh, the race is back on. You sit back down. Oh, it's another caution. Oh, let's see what's going on with the Masters. And then it's just too much of, I may as well start cooking because we're at another caution. And then you get away from the race that way. And it's like too much to easily be distracted by, instead of just like, hey, listen, I got to set everything aside because there's a flow going right now.
Yeah.
I can't afford to flip over and see what's going on with the Masters. I can't afford to start dinner or whatever right now because this race needs my undivided attention. We didn't have that yesterday. So Jeff Gluck's poll, we always refer to that. It wasn't to the point, it wasn't bad enough where I voted no. I voted yes because there's only yes or no.
Yeah.
But I didn't necessarily thoroughly enjoy that race, but I didn't hate it. It was just like, I don't know what to think because it's almost like an incomplete grade because it just like, it was like, what are we doing? Uh-oh.
NA.
Wow. Race grade. I couldn't put an actual race grade down. I have NA down because, Matt, you nailed it in the end of what you were saying there, where I preach consumption of the race and how you consume it.
Yeah.
We all do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there was an easy way to consume this race if you tried to.
Yeah.
And that's where I got distracted. It was more of a distraction, these cautions, than it was like Whitey, like you were saying, where it's like, sometimes a caution distracts you and you could go cook, you go outside, it's nice out. And then other cautions, they glue you to the seat.
Yeah.
We're like, ooh, okay, needed that.
Yep.
All right, here we go.
Now we're shaking things up again.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a difference in cautions.
We felt a little bit of that in the middle of stage 2 when things started like kind of having like, ooh, okay, something to shake it up. Oh, here's something to shake it up. And then it shook it up too much, and then the can explodes.
The teams couldn't even get a gauge on their tire wear. They couldn't get a gauge on long run versus short run because there was just caution. You couldn't. I felt bad for some of those crew chiefs because how do you determine what do you do? Like that was more of a crew chief race and when to call it and how to they got to be on their toes with how many cautions come out. And to me, it was a surprise. And when I saw 23 lead changes among 13 drivers, since we started doing this podcast, whenever there is in the 20s as far as lead changes, and in the teens when it comes to drivers to go along with that, I've given that race an A.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it means it's like, oh, this is competitive
cautions
racing
here really drastically inflated those lead changes and driver numbers because of the 16 cautions that came out. I don't think that was a true indicator of the 23. It didn't happen racing rather than just the cautions coming out and pitting. And to me, it was like, man, this race had some great potential and it was right there, but then nothing ever really happened. It seemed like to me that's kind of what it was. It's like, oh, okay.
No.
All right. Stage one. I've gotten used to stage one being dull. I've gotten used to stage one being a little practice, maybe see what your car has. Yeah. And okay, then figuring it out, then the first caution comes out, or if they have a comp caution, if rain was ever, figure it out. Teams get their first adjustment. Okay, here we go. Now we'll see what happens. And you go into that. Okay, the race starts going good, goes green. One random caution comes out. Okay, now the teams, this is what we got to do. We know the adjustment here. That first adjustment didn't work. Now you're into the second round. That's where stage two starts. Okay, do you go for points? Do you go for this? Strategy has to start. Do you stay out? Do you not? That's what I look for going into stage two. And then stage two is the bulk of the racing.
Yeah.
And that is where
it's the arc I was talking about.
Where you see the actual fast cars come alive, and now you determine, okay, who am I watching in stage three that performed in stage two? Now you have to take in track and temperature and night and day into consideration for what is going to happen in stage three. But we all love that. That's all the variable. That's all the stuff that you're building up for the end in stage three. And I think at that point you were building for that. There was a little bit of something, but then stage three just turned out to just be a caution fest. And to me, man, I don't know if it's because we got so used to watching green flag runs and our mind frame getting into that.
Yeah.
And then now we have this choppy back and forth. And don't get me wrong, there's fans that love chaos. They love crashes. That's all that they really look for. And it's like, they're just going to drink beer and watch cars crash. Great. I get that, but this was not a yes or no poll in my eyes. Once again, Gluck with his yes or no. I think this is more of you need the in-betweens. Yeah. You need poor, average, me. It's got to be on a scale, this race. And to me, I would have scaled this as it was fine. I read what you were saying, Whitey, about internet and what they loved. And some of the people that I was reading too, I think it was if you were there in Texas, man.
It was good.
I think you saw a hell of a show.
Yeah.
I think Fox kind of dropped the ball a little bit. We've been good on the booth. I'm going to give the booth a little credit for not being up on it. Maybe not the booth as much, but the cameras. I think Fox got stuck with their cameras that they had at Texas from the last years. Yeah. They didn't change anything. They didn't upgrade anything. So I think the battles and maybe the slipping and sliding that we didn't see on TV that you were at the racetrack, I think it was one of those, we say it all the time, you got to get there, got to get there, got to get there. You had to be there for this race.
That's like, I mean, Whitey, you're going to see I promise you, because you've never seen a race at Dover, Eric and I have.
Yeah.
You're going to see the best Dover race you've ever seen before because you're going to be there. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be there, so I won't. But, like, I know how to consume Dover. So even though I'm going to be watching on TV this year, I'm going to enjoy that race. Like, I know that racetrack races puts on good racing.
Yeah.
Pocono, another thing. A lot of people dog shit on Pocono, but we go there every year of our lives. We grew up going there. We get to see everything that the broadcast isn't showing. We know that track puts on good racing.
Absolutely.
It's just about what you can and can't see. Yesterday might have been a freaking outstanding. Yesterday, for the people in Texas, might have been an A+ race. We just didn't consume it. We weren't able to consume it that way, which is fine. Obviously, you can't get to every race. But some racetracks, you don't need to consume it in person to enjoy it. Some racetracks, you really do. And I think I'm not going to dog shit on Texas because obviously the truck race was all right. The Xfinity race was great. So I'm not really going to blame the track itself.
No.
it is the car, and I know we've talked about that in the past. I'm sure we're going to talk about it more today, but it's the car at this point. And Eric, you said something yesterday. You had news of your own, and I am in total agreement with you. I'll let you break that news on your own as far as your thoughts on this car. But yeah, I mean, it's the car. It's not the tracks at this point.
Whatchamacallit. So I was trying to, like, as the race was happening, I'm like, maybe I just have to adjust how I'm taking it in. So then I started going on the NASCAR app because, again, a lot of guys are on different pit strategies now. So I'm like watching, I'm like, okay, where it'll show like the fuel left, like fuel consumption or whatever. That gives you an idea the last time they pitted. Easy. So I'm scrolling up and down. But the problem was we couldn't get a long enough run to see if it actually made a difference. And that's when the chaos like was taking me out of it, where I'm like, now I'm trying to like adjust on the fly how to figure it out. And then to Eric's point with the lead changes and everything, usually I put my race notes together looking at the race results, and it kind of reminds me who did well in what stages, because it'll show you who gained stage points in the first stage, second stage, who led laps and everything. I had to print the whole entire thing out on my outline today, and I even color-coded some of the guys because typically at the finish of the race, you see a good chunk of guys that got stage points in stage 1 and stage 2, unless it's a fuel strategy race and things get flipped around. This week, we only had 3 guys in the top 10 get stage points in both stages. We saw a total of 6 guys get stage points in either or in the top 10. But the spread, I mean, some of the guys that it's mostly visual, but like a lot of guys that led early, like Kyle Larson, of course, he had his troubles. He finished 21st. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Harrison Burton both got stage points in the second stage. Like, when are they a factor at non-super speedway races? You know, Denny Hamlin got stage points in the first stage, led laps. But then, of course, you know, he had his issues and he ended up in 30th. You know, Ross Chastain, of course, he got wrecked out late. Ryan Blaney, he got wrecked. But then, like, some of the other guys, like, I tell you what, Chase Briscoe had a hell of a day. He was one of the only consistent ones where he was there in all 3 stages, got himself a 6th place finish. Bubba Wallace, same deal, one of the only ones that was in it. Chase Elliott, the winner. And that's why I'm like, all right, well, Chase got up to the front through a little bit of strategy. He stayed there. He deserved this one because he was another one who got stage points in the first 2, led a bunch of laps. But other than that, it was kind of like, again, I had a hard time figuring out who was actually good that day and who just wasn't on a weird strategy. And then eventually that strategy went away.
I'll let you know right now.
Yeah.
It was who was in the top 10 was going to be good because they were in clean air.
Yeah.
It was a clean air race. It just, you know, if you got marked back in the 28th, you weren't going to make your way back up. Even Kyle Larson was not going to make his way back up just racing through the field. You're not going to do it. He lucked out by getting all those cautions to get up back on the lead lap. If there wasn't 16 cautions, Larson isn't doing what he's doing. He's not coming back and getting the good finish that he is. I mean, to me, I heard them say it a couple times over the broadcast, like, I need clean air. Like, Chase even said, like, how different his car got so much better once he was up in the top 5 and he was in clean air. And that is what the strategy turned into.
Yeah.
Take 2 tires, flip here. We need track position. I don't care if we come out on the front row on 100 lap old tires, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go from first back to 28th in this run because the caution's going to come. I'm gaining spots no matter what by doing this move.
Yep.
So teams are gambling just to get clean air. And, you know, the drivers will complain about not being able to pass in that sort of situation too. So, you know, I don't know if it was just me, but what do you guys think about this? I didn't even think the restarts were exciting. There was no good battles off of restarts.
Not really, no. Except like the last couple at the end there in overtime.
Even then, those weren't even that great, to be honest with you.
No, it was a struggle this week, you know. For us, I guess. I don't know. Other people didn't think. Let us know how you feel in the comments.
It's
and that's
fine.
okay.
Like, I didn't hate it, but it deserves some criticism, I do feel like.
No, I agree. We're coming up on the time, though. You want to jump into the checkers and wreckers?
3 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's checkers and wreckers.
All right, since we started with me for the race grades, we'll start with Daytona Ron for the checkers and wreckers.
All right, boys. My checkers goes to the primary sponsor that was in victory lane on that Chase Elliott 9 car. Hooters, baby.
Yeah.
They finally make it back to victory lane. First time in 30 years. Last time was Alan Kawicki in 1993. So we talked about the Golden Arches waiting a very long time to get back to victory lane until Bubba brought them there. And this was another one. They stuck with the sport. You know, they still kept sponsoring. They're trying to get that win, and they never bailed. I got to respect that when you don't bail, when you don't, win all the time. So got to shout out to Hooters getting back into victory lane there.
All right. I like it. And you want to know what? I'm surprised it took this long. I feel like Chase has that car all the time. But I guess like most of his wins are like United first or whatever. And yeah, do people get free wings today? Were they allowed to get free wings again at Hooters? Has it finally happened?
It's probably like a free app or something, I bet, when you go in.
Well, I know when you used to get a top 5 or a top 10, you get free pickle chips. But I think if you won in the Hooters scheme, you get a free wings. Or maybe it was boneless tenders.
The Hooters outside of Daytona has some of the best screwdrivers I've ever had at 6:30 a.m. And I've had a ton of screwdrivers at 6:30 a.m. And those are the best ones.
I love it. How about your records for the weekend?
So my records was, I kind of wanted to wreck myself in a way for not really consuming the race like I normally do on a week-to-week basis. I allowed the distractions to seep in, and I didn't stick true to what we always say here, and that's on me. I am going to go back and rewatch this race tomorrow. I have it downloaded. I'm going to go full attention. I'm going to rewatch this race, and because I have to consume it better. I do. I have no race grade for it because I'm just like, I don't want to shit on it if it's not, if there's no need to. So. Yeah. Records was hard for me out of this, but I'm going to wreck Brad Keselowski.
Okay, that's strange. He finished second.
Right. That's why I'm wrecking him.
Yeah.
Brad, it's been 102 races, bro. Give me a little more in that final restarts. Give me more. What do you do in this next-gen car? You have to race aggressive. You have to push the guy up towards the wall. Yeah. That's how you have to drive this car. Everyone knows you have to be aggressive. And with this car, to win at the end of these races, we've seen numerous amounts of passes or try to pass for the lead, where basically just wash the guy up or use him up. I just wish I saw a little bit more aggressiveness out of Brad in those final restarts to go out there and grab that win. Lock yourself in. Get rid of that 100 and some race streak that you're on without a win. I wanted to see him use a bumper, try to get there, do something more than what you did. Now, I know he might not have had the best car capable up there. At the end, he got up there versus this tire strategy. Yeah. Maybe he didn't have the car to do that. They always talk about, like Denny, you could get to the guy, but then that's about it. And sometimes you can't even get to the guy. But, man, you're restarting. Do a Denny Hamlin. Try to do something. Jump the try to win. Like, to me, he just kind of like I brought it up earlier. The restarts to me, even earlier, weren't that exciting. There was not many great battles once that restart happened. And even in the end, okay, shit, the race was kind of up and down. All right, normally I hate green-white checkers because it ruins people's days that were up front all day long. But this race was one where it's like, okay, the guy's up front. This guy wrecked. That guy wrecked. He was dominant car, the 5 and the 11. The 9's up there. These guys are giving hell, boys. Go up here. Let's see what this green-white checker is all about. Brad going for a win. Chase trying to break that streak. I thought we were going to get fireworks.
Bring it home, checkers or wreckers.
I really don't think we didn't get any of it. So that's kind of not a real record, but I wanted more.
It's ironic because we had chaos when we didn't want it, and we didn't have the chaos when we probably needed it the most. Yeah. It was just a drunk race. That's just.
I think they actually showed it on the broadcast, which we didn't get much of a post race at all. But I think Brad Keselowski kind of said like, yeah, we just don't have the speed the cars need this year, which he kind of blamed himself. But then also like he just didn't have it yesterday. Like it was close, it was there, but it just wasn't enough. But on the bright side, we're heading to Talladega next week. How many times has Brad Keselowski won at Talladega? I know RFK is not running the way that they were last season, this season. But if anywhere he's going to get it done, we got a good possibility this week. So I'm excited to see what happens there. How about you, Matt? What's your checkers and wreckers for the weekend?
So, we alluded to it earlier. Alan Gustafson, Chase Elliott's crew chief, gets ironically, the day I announced that I am no longer a fan of the 9. But you got to give credit where it's due no matter what, unless it's the 22 team. They never get my credit. Alan Gustafson got that 9 car up to the front on pit strategy. We see it all the time, essentially every race. Not essentially. We see it every race where a car or two stays out, praying to God a pit stop or a yellow is going to fly. And Alan was one of the guys. I'm surprised more cars didn't stay out, because if you read the room, you knew it was only a matter of time before we were going to get a caution. Like, what have we been talking about this whole time so far while reviewing this race, right? Like the chaos that was going every so often. So he kept his guy out and got him to the front. Now, after that caution, obviously you cycle through and everything. Chase came out in like 9, 10, 8, something in that region, but it got him into the top 10, where before that pit cycle started, I think he was either running high teens or low 20s, where Eric alluded to it earlier. You weren't going to pass. He wasn't even, and not taking anything away from Chase's talent or the car itself. He had obviously a race-winning car, but when you're that far back in traffic, when you're in mid-pack traffic, you're not going to find yourself to the front without a little luck and a little help. And so Alan Gustafson said, "Hey, listen, stay out there. Let's see what happens." And it worked out for them. And I believe it was a race-winning strategy. That it wasn't at the end of the race that the strategy occurred. It was more towards the middle, but it put them in position to be there at the end. So my checkers goes to that call.
Yeah, you want to know what? I'm going to go as far as saying that caution right there changed the whole entire complexion of the race, because I'm looking to see where the cautions fell again. And we saw a lot of cautions early on in that stage. This was finally like the longest green flag run we had seen of the race. Guys were pitting for green, like in the green flag runs. There was only 9 cars that needed to pit. And of course, John Hunter Nemechek lost it for like the 3rd time. And that's what kind of flipped everything out. But so, yeah, I mean, just the Hendrick crew chiefs in general. We've been talking about, William Byron. I gave Rudy Fugle the checkers last week just for always being on their toes. They brought it up during the broadcast. Kyle Larson, 2 laps down, but Cliff Daniels always has something where he's like, well, if this happens, we're doing this. And if this happens, we're doing that. They brought it up on the broadcast where Kyle Larson's like, I just trust Cliff. Whatever he tells me is the deal. That's what we're doing. I'm just driving the car. So I think those guys really do deserve the spotlight some of the time. He's just as deserving of the credit for the win as Chase was behind the wheel. So
absolutely.
Yeah. That's why I said this race was almost a crew chief race.
Yeah.
Where it was literally on their shoulders, this race. It was like the driver, like you said, Larson was out there driving. You tell me what to do. There's so many cautions, so many different, like, what to do? 2 track position. Like it was definitely a crew chief race. And I was pissed because EJ, he ended stage 2 with stage points in the top 10. And I'm like, okay, here we go. He made his way up front through that. But then towards the end of the race, it's like, what are you doing? Stay out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, you got up there. And then it's like, it was funny because I was out there. I remember I go, okay, like stage points, great. 8th, maybe. I think he finished in stage 2. I'm doing something outside, maybe feeding the cats. And I walked by the garage door because it was under caution for the stage. Then it's like, all right, she yelled out to me, they're going back green. So I said, okay, I'm going. I go, where's EJ? 22nd? Because I know finished 8th, he's going to go down pit road. She goes, 20th. I go, I fucking knew it. You know what I mean? Like, it just, that has been my, like, thing that's been killing me this season with some of these races too is, I might be getting frustrated too watching them because I think my expectations for the first time are a little bit higher for myself that I have on EJ and that Toyota team, but I have to dial it back and keep saying this is first year stuff. They're new. They're trying to do it on their own. So I think I was getting a little frustrated watching that race in the beginning yesterday as well.
Their new pit crews compared to the last season too.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of variation and everything. You keep the hope alive, but you know, it is a tough one. I've been feeling the same. Pit road, man. Pit road's killing us. Anyways, how about your records, Matt? What's your records for the weekend?
So I am going to give you my records here in just a moment. I am just looking up some stats. So I'm going to give you guys a couple stats here. I'm going to give you driver 1 and driver 2, right? So you don't know which drivers I'm comparing right now. I'm just going to give you a couple quick stats.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay, so here we go. And I just want you guys to tell me if there was a draft, right, where you guys had to select one of these two drivers, had to select one of the two of them, which one would you guys take going forward? So here we go. So average starting position, driver 1, the average starting position is 23.6.
Okay.
Driver 2, the average starting position is 20.8.
All right, so similar. Yeah.
Similar, but a little bit better, right? Average finish. Driver 1, 24.1. Driver 2, 21.3.
Okay, close.
Close, right? Driver 1 has been in the Cup Series for, and just bear with me here one more moment. I actually don't know if I can get that readily available. I want to say 7 years, 8 years now.
All right. Is it Austin Dillon?
No. It's actually probably been longer than that. Actually, here I've got it right here. Driver 1 has been in the Cup Series here for
Harrison Burton.
Well, he's only been in 3 years.
Nope.
And his average finish is way worse than was.
Okay, 9 years. 9 years. Sorry. Okay, 9 years.
Yeah.
9 years. So driver 1 has been in the Cup Series 9 years, and driver 2 is a rookie. Okay, so just to recap, driver 1 has been in the Cup Series 9 years. He has an average start this season of 23.6 and an average finish of 24.1. Driver 2 has an average start of 20.8 and an average finish of 21.3. Who are you guys taking?
Which one's the rookie?
I'm taking the Rook.
Yeah.
You're taking the rookie, right?
Yeah.
Carson Hocevar versus his teammate Corey LaJoie are the stats that I just gave you.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
My record goes to Corey LaJoie only because this race, I didn't know where to go with it. And whenever in doubt, shit on Corey LaJoie because I'm sick of it. Like everywhere I turn, everyone's pumping him up. And it's just like, dude, your rookie teammate is outperforming you this year, and it's not even close. Carson Hocevar just had a legit top 10 finish yesterday, where Corey LaJoie couldn't buy a top 10 finish unless it was Talladega Super Speedway, where he's going to get up front next week, and he's going to not know how to handle his car, and he's going to wreck the field next week.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes with Corey LaJoie. So when in doubt, shit on Corey LaJoie. That's where I'm at. And so that's where I'm wrecking.
You know what? I completely agree, especially too, since that 7 car is supposedly the one that they put all the resources in, and the 77.
I don't have any evidence of that.
Well, I don't either. Oh, that's the thing, because the performance isn't there. We saw glimpses of it early on in the season for like a stage or two. I didn't understand the hype going into it either. And that's a perfect segue because my checkers goes to Carson Hocevar. He was one of the cars to bring out the caution early on with his spin. But then he kept it off the wall. He was lucky Kyle Busch didn't T-bone him being right there. But then he was able to, him and his team were able to work back up and get his first top 10 in the Cup Series, and it's in his rookie year. I just thought that was worth spotlighting because I feel like a top 10 for a rookie is a big deal, especially a Spire car who typically, is running in 23rd or whatever. So big congratulations to him. And then my wreckers, I was having a hard time kind of thinking of wreckers, to be honest with you, just because of all of the chaos. I couldn't pinpoint like any one thing. Besides, I think Kyle Larson, that was a major turning point in this race too. He lost his wheel nut and then he lost his wheel completely. Not exactly sure how that happened either, because he had not just pit under caution or anything. He stayed out during caution. It wasn't like they just had a pit stop and it wasn't loose. So that one's really weird. Also, terrible penalty going 2 laps down plus time. Just a really rough one.
Dude, think about sitting in the pit, like after dominating the first half of that race. Think about
77 laps
as they blow by you at full speed, just sitting there, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Like that's got to just deflate you, or it's like, well, what do you even do? And then your car is damaged because the diffuser was dragging and everything. I know personally, me and Matt were having a debate on whether we should put him in the garage or not because the cautions were coming. We're like, well, he could easily get back on the lead lap. Is he going to be able to drive through that field? Unfortunately, it wasn't. Ended up finishing 21st, which is not a terrible finish after that kind of penalty. Usually, if you're 2 laps down, you're stuck 2 laps down. So it was a good day for him, considering, assuming Cliff Daniels is going to get suspended this week. Not sure how many weeks it is.
It's
it
Talladega.
still 4
Who
or is it
cares?
2 weeks? Yeah.
It's Talladega. Just go out there and let it rip.
Yep.
Now, what if they determine like he got like it was a faulty wheel and the wheel just snapped?
That's the thing.
They have to prove it. So they'll appeal.
Yeah, because like to me that couldn't have been the team not getting the lug on, right?
No, because
it's not lasting that long. That had to have been a parts failure.
Had to have been.
Unless I have wrong when he last pitted, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. It just seems like a real weird lost wheel. Usually they make sense, you know?
Well, no, we saw it a couple weeks ago where
the wheel stayed in.
The wheel, yeah, and it just snapped at that hub. You know what I mean? The wheel snapped. So that's why I'm thinking maybe it was like a weird parts failure on NASCAR's end. But like Matt said, yeah, we'll have to appeal it. I'm sure NASCAR teams usually do anyway, because it's like, hey, let's try to get one on them here. Then you know, so we'll see. Come what is it, Tuesday? They usually do like penalties and shit.
Yeah, usually Tuesday or Wednesdays are the big penalties. But yeah, that's my checkers and wreckers, and I kind of went over all the race notes during the race grade too. So I don't have much to add to this race unless you guys have anything to add to it.
I got something to add to it. We're going to Talladega, baby.
That's right, we are.
But before we get there, we do have to talk about the last place guy, because here on the Bump and Run podcast, everyone loves to talk about the winner, Chase Elliott, on a Monday. Even though we really didn't mention him, he did drive a hell of a race yesterday. All things considered, he was super aggressive on those restarts too.
You know what this podcast does an excellent job at? Never, ever talking about the winner.
No, we talk about everything but the winner.
Yeah. Unless there was like a giant storyline or like something crazy that happened. Like it was just like, oh yeah, Chase won.
Yeah,
Chase won.
That's it. Him and his team did a great job. He was super aggressive on restarts.
Alan got the car in position, and Chase did the rest. And like that's it. That's really all there is to say.
Yeah, this one was more on Alan than it was on Chase in my eyes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you could say, okay, I'm grateful that Chase is maybe figuring this car out because it's good for the sport in totality.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that was a big win for the sport of NASCAR. We needed him back in victory lane. Just for the pure fact that we saw when he wasn't in the playoffs, what it did to some of those races and ratings and fall off. And, you know, as much as you don't want to believe it, but that it means something for having him in these races, let alone winning them too. It's even
no, it really is. I mean, he's the most popular driver, you know, like you have fans jumping off that ship, you know?
Oh, he got booed. There were boos too, man.
Yeah.
And like, it's crazy because I heard them talking on Sirius XM, like even coming out like in driver intros, Chase has been getting booed. Like, and they're like, what is with that? You know what I mean?
No,
like,
listen, you've got someone here that survived the Colt that got out. I'm like Leah Remedy with the Church of Scientology here.
Yeah,
I survived the Colt. I got out, and I'm here to live about it and tell you. No, for me, it had nothing to do with performance. Jesus Christ, I'm a fucking New York Jets fan. Trust me, performance isn't
right.
Performance isn't everything for me. It was the fact. You know what the straw that broke the camel's back was a couple weeks ago when he was on the Dale Jr. download, and I think this is right around the time when people started booing him because it really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Is when he was asked like, "Hey, you know, if you're in the playoffs, which now we know he's going to be in the playoffs." And Netflix comes to you about doing the second season of their show on Netflix. are you going to be in it? And he was like, nah, probably not. You know, I just want to stick to racing, and I just want to go fast. If it has nothing to do with the on-track stuff, then I want nothing to do with it. Like, dude, guess what? Everybody wants to go fast. Everybody wants to focus on, but like, you're the biggest, quote unquote, the biggest name in our sport and the most popular driver. That's undeniable. That's a fact. You are the most popular driver voted upon how many years in a row now. You get the name out there. I don't care what you want. It's about the betterment of the sport.
Yeah.
Our most popular driver being in front of fans that don't normally watch the sport is a pretty important thing in my mind. And so that was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I think for a lot of fans, it was the same deal.
Yeah, I agree. I lost a lot of respect for Chase Elliott after that. In fact, I lost some respect for him for the fact that he said he didn't even watch it. Like, it's 5 episodes. Like, just check it out.
And your best friends are featured in it. Like, Bubba Wallace is in it. Ryan Blaney's in it. Like, some of your best friends are featured in it. Like, what do you mean like, if you guys were on I mean, it's different because we're not famous, but like, if you guys were in a documentary, even if it was like a local, like, news documentary that our news did, I'd be the first one to watch it because it's like, oh, my buddies are on that. I want to see
that's our buddies with this show that we do here. Like, our friends watch the show because we do it. You know what I mean? And that's cool. Like you said, it's just, you're supporting, you know, and he's just kind of like the grouch in the corner, but man, I don't want to do that, you know?
So like, it was just like,
it turns you off as a fan. It really does. Yeah. I completely understand that.
And I was probably looking for an excuse, a reason anyway. And that was just the perfect, like, what are we doing here? Like, that's like, so I was done with that.
Yep. You want to know what? It was, she left some dirty laundry on the floor. And it just pissed you off, and you're like, I'm done. I'm out of here. See you later.
Yep. It wasn't necessarily the laundry. It was the body of work leading up to it.
Yeah, it wasn't about the Netflix documentary. That was just the last little thing where you're like, you know what? This guy's not for me, you know?
Yeah.
But one guy who wasn't for the race at Texas was Austin Hill. He was running part-time in that RCR car, had himself a little steering issue that took him out of the race early. And that's the guy who came in last. But like you said, we are on to...
Marty, you gotta come back with me. Where?
The next NASCAR Cup race. It's the weekend preview.
And we're heading to Talladega. Just Xfinity and Cup this weekend. Truck's not heading there. Xfinity on track Saturday, 4 p.m. on Fox for the Ag Pro 300. And then Cup on track Sunday, 3 p.m. on Fox for the Geico 500. And to go over our picks from Texas, Daytona Ron, he picked Chris Buescher to win. He got you 22 points. You came in last. I picked Kyle Larson to win. It was looking like a great pick early on. He got me 26 points. And then, Matt, you picked William Byron, who had kind of an up and down day, but he got you 36 points in the end. So, Matt, you pick last. I pick second. And, Eric, you pick first. Who are you going with for Talladega?
You know, Talladega, I feel like, as much as we call these super speedways wild cards, I feel like Talladega's one where it's like, you know who's going to be up front. Yeah. You know who's going to be up there leading. And this is a week where I just had this feeling and I just didn't look otherwise. I didn't look into stats. I didn't look into this, that. I just said, you know what? Body of work up to this point, career up to this point, mentality up to this point, speed up to this point. It's all been there. It's all been getting better. I think he's at the peak of where he needs to be. And to lock into the playoffs early will do bigger things for this driver, I think, than anybody else in the field. I'm going with, we talked about Hooters getting in victory lane. Give me them golden arches, baby.
Ooh. Oh,
Bubba Wallace in the 23.
I like it. You're right. He's good at Talladega. He's got a win in the past.
I just think that team, that speed, something is there. They've been quick. They've been around in every race so far, whether it's a short track, a mile and a half, a super speedway. The eye test to me, I don't know if the results were there, but watching the race, it seems Bubba was always had a car or in contention to do it. And to me, I think he's good at these super speedways, and it's just one of those things where it's like, man, like Bubba's due, and Bubba, like if he wins this race, I think this is the key early for him to get the mentality to win another one somewhere quick down the road.
So not only that, the numbers this season alone definitely lead to that. I was just reading an article today why Bubba Wallace is one of the 10 best NASCAR drivers in 2024, and some of the stats, like they're undeniable right now. So the highest average starting position, he's number 8 at 11.7 starting position. We know the speed's there, especially in qualifying. You scroll down to stage points, and he is the 6th highest stage point getter with 52 stage points, right behind his teammate, Tyler Reddick, with 53 and 5th. And then you go to top 5 finishes. He is tied for 4th with 7 other drivers with 3 top 5s. The top 3 only have 4 top 5s each, right? So he's being consistent. And then the top 10 finishes, he's in 8th. He's tied for 7th with 4 top 10 finishes this season. So to go out and win at Talladega, it's a very good, strong possibility. I like that one.
Bubba's having a sneaky, really good season.
Yeah,
he's having.
And I just realized, I'm like, Bubba, this is undeniable. Like, I was just going through Twitter and I'm looking at stats. I'm looking at this, Bubba here, and I'm like, man, he is really putting on a hell of a season here.
I'll even say this: he's 9th in the points.
Yep.
I'm shocked at that. I actually thought he'd be a little higher. That's how good of a season he's having. Is like 9th is actually like a little bit of a letdown when I just saw where he was, because he's having a great seation so far.
I wonder how.
And who saw it coming but the Bump and Run podcast?
Yeah,
All 3 of us saw that coming.
Always. How about you, Matt? Or no, I picked second. Sorry.
You're next. Yep.
All right. I am going to go, like you said, people call Talladega and Daytona wild cards, but you see the same guys up front all the time. I want to go with Eric Almirola, but he's not in the field this season.
That would be a good one,
right? One guy who I feel like he's not in the conversation a lot, but we've been talking about him because he's there at the end. He's finding a way to get up there, and who doesn't love Talladega more than Ryan Blaney? We'll see how those Fords do in Talladega. We'll see if Blaney could get that win and get himself locked into the playoffs.
Nah, him and the 1 are going to get into it. Wreck the field. I can see it.
You want to what? I was thinking the 1-2 as kind of a long shot. The 1's always kind of there. Jones is always there. There's a lot of guys with potential to win this race who are always up front. But how about you, Matt? Who are you going with?
So it's Talladega. I am just going to scroll up and down the list here, and whoever I land on is who I'm going with. So here we go. And stop. Ooh. Harrison Burton. Okay. Nope. Okay. Here we go. Oh, whoop. Kaz Gralla, not happening. Okay. Here we go. All right. Definitely this one. Here we go. John Hunter Nemechek. Nope. All right. I'm just going to go with Denny Hamlin. I haven't picked him yet this year. I'm just going to go with Denny Hamlin.
No, James Dennis Hamlin. I'm surprised we were just talking about him. Brad Keselowski,
I stepped into a minefield there and got my legs blown off.
I'm surprised no one took Brad Keselowski this weekend, but I like all of our picks. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We're 9 races into the 2023 season. Your playoff picture so far: William Byron 3 wins, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin with 2 wins, and Chase Elliott all locked into the playoffs at this point. We will see, can Bubba Wallace get himself finally locked in on a win and not have to point his way into the playoffs? Will we see Denny Hamlin get his 3rd win of the season, or will we see our defending champion get himself locked into the playoffs at one of his best tracks, Talladega? We'll find out this Sunday, 3 p.m. on Fox for the Geico 500, and we'll break it all down for you right here on the Bump and Run podcast next Monday night. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night. The Bump and Run! There it is!